Denver hangs on for dear life. Jokic, another big game. Did the Milwaukee Bucks just level up back to their championship selves? And what is going on in New York? Tibbs, who are you playing down the stretch here? And of course, everybody's talking about the Zion video of him dunking, and we're going to talk about it too right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast. Thank you for making this show your first listen every day. Free, available everywhere podcasts exists, on YouTube, where you can see me, John Corrales, along with Tony East over here of Locked On Pacers. I do Locked On Celtics, if you can't tell, with all the Celtics paraphernalia as my podcast set. Very elaborate podcast set for the YouTube thing. Normally joined by Jake Madison, but some very terrible weather going through New Orleans. Hope everybody's okay. So it's me and Tony tonight. Tony coming in late scratch. Tony stepping in for the start. How you feeling?
I'm good. I like my roll off the bench a lot because I can kind of assess what's going on in the game and read it and come in. I got to do all the NBA player tropes when I do these subs. But yeah, I'm doing good. It was a fun night of hoops. It was fun to see Zion doing crazy Zion stuff, even if there's some funky Zapruder stuff we're going to have to break down that video.
There is a significant breakdown of this Zion dunk video coming up in segment 3. We'll save the Knicks Hawks and Golden State Orlando for segment 2. Let's start though with the late game here. The Denver Nuggets holding on 107-97 against the I'm sorry, no, that's not the final score. It's 127-115. For the NBA website doesn't quite update as often as I'd like it to. It's 127-115, John and Tony. Jokic with a 30-point game, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. Clippers putting together a now patented Clipper comeback, but the Nuggets holding them off with 3-pointers from Jeff Green, of all people. Get a contribution from Will Barton, a contribution from Aaron Gordon. Jokic keeping balls alive, tipping, tip assists and all of that stuff. Really, really nice return to MVP form for Jokic. And an important game, Tony, for the Nuggets. Last time I saw the Nuggets, the team I cover, the Celtics, were just decimating them. And that was an embarrassing loss for them. Jokic put the loss on himself after that game, and he came out in this one and said, "Okay, we're not going to do that back to back at home."
Yeah, big game for the Nuggets. Like you mentioned, that Celtics game, they benched their starters in the second half, right? Like these are the games you have to respond to as a starting five, and that lineup looked fantastic. All very high plus minuses, rolled over the Clippers, and the Clipper starters are worse than the Nuggets starters, but they looked horrible against Boston. They needed a bounce back game like this. So not only to shoot well from 3, but just to play well in general against a pretty scrappy and good Clippers team was important. And not only that, the timing was important too, because that loss to Boston, you mentioned, put the Nuggets in the play-in range when it happened by winning this game, and because Minnesota lost yesterday, Nuggets now back firmly in 6th in the West, where they will not have to do the play-in stuff. But yeah, they're not going to lose often when they get that Jokic game and shoot 50% from 3. They only missed 2 free throws the whole game, low turnover count. They played a really, really solid game, Denver did in this game. Everybody really stepped up. Their bench was all really spectacular as well. So the Clippers did that thing where they make it really interesting in the fourth quarter, and I was prepared to delete all my notes and say, how does Ty Lue keep doing this when they cut it to 5 with about 5 minutes to go? I think I got to 3 at one point, maybe. So when it was that close, I thought maybe they would do it, but the Nuggets just blew them out the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, like you mentioned, Bones Highland, everybody loves Bones Highland. How can you not love Bones Highland? 4 of 6 from 3, 6 of 8. He had 16 points in this game. Lost in all of this Denver stuff with, the Murray injury and the Porter injury, and is the fact that Bones Highland's getting run as a rookie and showing that he could be a part of the future there in Denver. So if you're looking for silver linings, the continued development and shooting from Bones Highland, he's going to develop. I think you feel comfortable saying he's going to develop into an important piece for them, if nothing else, in this season, which I'm sure people in Denver hope it's not a lost season. You got somebody here that you say, okay, I feel good about this guy moving forward.
Yeah, on the Clippers side, Ty Lue's been amazing this season, getting this group to continually make these crazy comeback wins and do these perfect late game adjustments. They're a solid top 8 team in the West, but there's going to be a lot of games like this where they don't have Kawhi and PG. If they didn't have a guy just step. Terrence Mann had a nice game with 24 points thanks to 12 free throws attempted. But if they don't have anyone really lighting up the nets, I mean, they won't be able to win. And Amir Coffey's been doing it sometimes for them. He was off. Only took 5 shots in this game. Reggie Jackson was 6 for 18. Marcus Morris was 6 for 16. This is the kind of stuff that could plague them come playoff time, and it was on full display tonight.
Yeah, these are two teams who are dealing with kind of similar storylines to varying degrees. Two guys who are hurt that you're counting on. No one to help the players who are left. And obviously, Denver has the MVP, which the Clippers do not have that caliber of player left. But if you don't have somebody helping Jokic, then that's going to be an issue. Jokic got the help against the Clippers. He didn't get the help against Boston, and that's the difference in this game. And the big thing for Denver now, they still have that game in hand up against Minnesota in a couple of weeks. So that's going to be an important game. If they can win that one, maybe they can put some distance between themselves and Minnesota. But that's a real interesting playoff scenario to watch, because it's the last one in the West as far as who's in and who's out, because Clippers are the 8th seed. It's just, Clippers, Lakers, Pelicans, who's in, who's out there as far as like where in the plan are they going to fall. So that's that game. Let's also now talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and Chicago Bulls. Although people in Chicago may not want us to.
Do we have to talk about the Bulls?
I think we should talk about the Bulls, man, because it's a 126-98 win for the Milwaukee Bucks, who at one point this game was tied 20-20, and then everything took off. And when I said at the beginning, did Milwaukee level up? It's because this was the first time since opening night that you got the Giannis Antetokounmpo, Brook Lopez defensive pairing in the starting lineup, and then all of a sudden you start to see, you hold Chicago to under 100 points. They had gone 18 straight games allowing teams to score 100 or more. This is a team that's hung its hat on defense, and now you've got Giannis and you've got Brook Lopez, who is the centerpiece of their defense with how they cover pick and rolls and what it allows Giannis to do off the ball. This is an important development for me. If Milwaukee is going to assert themselves as the defending champions and try to separate themselves a little bit in the East, getting that Giannis and Brook Lopez pairing is huge.
Yeah, they're 4-1 when Brook Lopez plays this season. Their only loss was to the on-fire Minnesota Timberwolves of late, who I think have the best record in the NBA since the All-Star break. So, he plays like they're obviously good. They won the championship last year. Like, I don't have to explain to people how good the Bucks can be, but they were just lacking that for such a long time. And Giannis had to guard centers with just more straining on him, and other guys had to move up a position. And Bobby Portis is playing in an expanded role. Having him back just like lines up all the pieces. You know what I mean? Like it did last year. And so now everybody's in their correct role, and they they look great again. They shot really well from deep. They shot 61%. Now the caveats abound. Like you mentioned, the Bulls defense is terrible. And credit Casey Johnson of NBC Chicago for this. The Bulls are now 0-16 versus the top 3 teams from both conferences, and that includes this game against the Bucks. That is very alarming for me when I want to consider them a contender, and their terrible defense is a big factor there. The Bucks just tore it up, but they've been playing better with Brook back, and when they get Drew like this, I mean, they're basically unbeatable because Giannis is so good. So even without Chris Middleton, they just completely rolled the Bulls tonight. It wasn't even close.
I was just going to say no Chris Middleton in this one. Look. There's 2 different paths. They're diverging here. The Chicago Bulls on the way down, and not even like a slow descent. This is a precipitous drop from the top here. They're now 42-30. I know Lonzo Ball's had a setback in his recovery, but this isn't just about Lonzo Ball. I know he comes back and he changes the defense, and that certainly helps, but this is a lot of early season success, kind of like water finding its level, so to speak. And there was always a question about whether Chicago could sustain being at the top. That was always a little bit surprising. And here they are. That correction is happening. Meanwhile, the Milwaukee Bucks are starting to say, okay, here's our stretch run. Now we've got Brook back. Once you have everything in place, and I don't want to overreact to a blowout of a team that's got a terrible defense right now, but this is the stretch where Milwaukee kind of wakes up and maybe asserts themselves, and maybe they don't get the top seed, maybe they hang there in number 2, but this is where they kind of say, hey, remember us? We're the champs. You haven't been talking about us enough.
Yeah, the Bulls are just it's so bizarre because they're missing vets all season. You mentioned Lonzo. They just got Caruso back. Like Derek Jones Jr. is not even in their rotation right now. It's just weird. And then they got good minutes from Io all season. Patrick Williams just came back. Kobe White's in the rotation. Like these guys are all okay, but they're all young, and like young players are naturally inconsistent. So when you have these injuries and DeRozan stops scoring 35 a night automatically and shoots 1,000,000%, they're a very vulnerable team all of a sudden because of these young guy inconsistencies. So, yeah, I think they have extra gears. Like, they're not as bad as they've been the last couple of weeks, I don't think. But they need guys to recover, and they need more from these young guys. And they have not gotten it recently, and it was fully on display when you play, like you've mentioned, a rounding into form Bucks team that won a championship last year.
So now the Bulls are sitting here in 5th. And there's really no chance of them climbing into the top 4 unless something really bad happens to one of the top 4. We're starting to see a little bit clearer playoff picture.
Do you smell that, John, in Chicago?
Would that be?
That is a small waft of play-in tournament I'm smelling. 2 games away from the play-in the Bulls are right now. They have another game with the Cavs coming up, and they would be tied 2-2 in the season series. Toronto's looking pretty good recently. It's not that crazy to me that the Bulls could fall that far. Will they? I don't know. They have 2 stars, but it's not that crazy to me.
I saw Sean Woodley, Locked On Raptors host, positing similar thoughts on Twitter. It's not out of the question. 2 games on the way down is easier to lose when you got teams nipping at your heels. I think most teams would love to keep the Raptors there in 7th. Just so Kyrie Irving can't play in the play-in tournament. And let's eliminate the Brooklyn Nets. Everybody should just conspire like, okay, Toronto, we love you and all that stuff. But just stay there, beat Brooklyn for us. We'll hook you up a little bit later on. But yeah, no, you're right. Chicago could be dipping into that play-in spot.
Chicago, Brooklyn would make the NBA a lot of money. So one and done game as well.
It would indeed. All right, we got a couple other games on the docket tonight, and one of them is the Atlanta Hawks and New York Knicks, and boy, that was something. And the Golden State Warriors blowing a 4th quarter lead to the Orlando Magic. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. First, I got to talk to you about Prize Picks. When I'm in the arena at the TD Garden covering Celtics games, which I do as well as the podcast, I have Celtics fans who listen to me talk about Prize Picks come up to me and talk to me about how much they love this game because it's a daily fantasy game. It's daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players and over-under on their projections, and you can up to 10 times on any entry. And why people love it is because it's you against the projected numbers. It's not you against somebody with algorithms and 5 computers with the processing power and all that stuff. You don't have to worry about the deck being stacked against you. You go in, any props that you can think of, points scored, rebounds, steals. You can mix sports. You can pick somebody from the NBA, someone from the NHL, someone from college basketball when tournament resumes. You can mix it all up, and you could end up winning a few bucks. Prize Picks, it's prizepicks.com, or you can go to Prize Picks, download the app from the App Store or Google Play. And for a limited time, Prize Picks has an exclusive no-brainer and offer for all of the Locked On users. You get $50 free money here if a player in your first Prize Pick entry scores a single point. They're really trying to give you this $50. The only catch is you have to use the promo code NBA. So when you go to prizepicks.com or download the app, you use that code NBA and you get this exclusive offer for Locked On fans. You use the code NBA, $50 for free if your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. So go download the show and download the app, I should say, and check it out because it's really fun and it is daily fantasy made easy. Hey, thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. How about making Locked On Now your second listen? You get a recap of the night in the NBA from the local hosts. So we're breaking things down and talking big picture storyline stuff. But if you want to hear from each host about his team and what happened from each host perspective, check out Locked On Now. You get it wherever you got this podcast. You can also watch it on YouTube on this Locked On NBA feed. Let's bring Tony back into the game, into the podcast here to talk about Atlanta beating the New York Knicks 117-111 on the TNT broadcast. 45 points for Trae Young and a late collapse there for the Knicks, who seem to have this game in control, and they just can't close out. And once again, you got Tom Thibodeau playing guys like Taj Gibson down the stretch. And the signature moment of this game is Taj getting his ankles broken by Trae Young. And Trae just loves shutting up that New York crowd, Tony.
Yeah, the Knicks up 10 in the fourth and blow it. To Trae, the villain, his first game back in MSG since that playoff series last year. Has to be a real stinger for Knicks fans. Oh, by the way, this was the Knicks' 42nd loss this season, which means they will have a losing record 1 year after last year, where everything felt like it was great again in New York. I mean, could a night be more miserable for the Knicks than this? Losing to their villain, clinching the losing record. No Julius Randle, although I think Knicks fans were a little happy to see what they could look like without him for a game or two, because he's been shockingly healthy. It's been tough to evaluate them. Yeah, horrible night for the Knicks from that perspective. And Trae was just ridiculous. Like 45 points is insane. Drilling the threes from everywhere, dropping Taj Gibson with a nasty crossover into mid-range shot late in the game, like you mentioned. And Bogdan Bogdanovic, who barely played, he was questionable, I think, before the game, drops a season-high 32 to go with it. When you get 77 points from two guys, it's going to be hard to lose. And the Hawks were still down 10 in the fourth, but those two guys really carried them through this one.
So I got two questions for you. We'll start with the Knicks question. Is this the end of the road for both Tibbs and Randle? Is Randle done with the Knicks? And is Tibbs on his way out too?
Tibbs, I'll say no, because of Randle. I mean, like, Randle was their team last year, and he has just not. He's a good player, but like last year, was second team All NBA, deservedly.
Right.
And this year, he's like barely, like, he's a starter level player, I guess, but like that's it. You know, they're relying on him to be the guy he was last year, and he's not. And what else is Tibbs supposed to do? They kind of made some offseason moves with like, hey, we have a second team All-NBA forward, and then they don't. So he's coaching with what he has. So the knocks against Tibbs are like, this game had a lot of them. I think about the Knicks a lot, so I have thoughts here. Like not starting all these young guys quickly, Grimes, Deuce McBride, they're all awesome, and they're coming off the bench. Like, your season is sunk. You have an under 500 record. You're not making the plan. Like, get your young guys some minutes. Stop playing Alec Burks 36 minutes. They started Obi Toppin. Finally, that was good. RJ Barrett played a ton. It's just that kind of stuff that's been frustrating Knicks fans all season. And so that's just who Tibbs is. You know, you cover the Celtics. You know who Tibbs is a little bit from his assistant days back then. Like, he's not going to change from that. So I think he gets another year. Like, they were awesome 2 years ago, and Randle was awesome. But Randle, like I don't know what they do with him. What's his value right now? Like, it's hard for me to think they get rid of either, but after a season like this, like, I don't know, I guess nothing should be off the table, but it doesn't seem like this is too much of Tibbs' fault to me.
Well, you know, it doesn't, but it also sort of is. Now, look, I just looked up Randle's contract, and I had forgotten that they'd given him this much money.
Yeah.
I don't know who picks him up.
That's why his value is so tough for me.
Because he's got $26 million on the books next year, 28 after that, and 30.3 after that. That's kind of like, you need to figure that out. So I just don't know how you go back to Tibbs and Randle. This is talk about track records. So it seems like last season was the aberration. He had
for sure
that was the contract year, right? Like, that was Randle has great contract years. So you got burned by it again. And then Tibbs has a very small window of success. And once that goes away, then it's done. It's over. Like, you're not going to get that back, I don't think, because unless you take away Taj Gibson, and maybe he might retire from coaching if you take away Taj Gibson from him, because I just to play him 20 minutes in this game. No, stop it. I joked on Twitter that if Joakim Noah came out of retirement tomorrow morning, he'll play him 30 minutes later that night and down the stretch in the fourth quarter. I don't see how that situation is going to work. You might be right that he might be back to start the season. I think that he's gone unless the Knicks start strong. I think he's gone by like Christmas. So
that I agree with. And I think the easiest solution for them would be to go to Randall and say, hey, this is RJ Barrett's team now. He's better than you, right? And that would make them a lot better. Like that hierarchical structural change would help them a lot. But would he take that? Like he just got this big extension with second team All-NBA 2 years ago. Like why would he be like, yeah, I'll sign up for that? So I don't know how they get around it unless he's willing to accept a role change of some kind. And maybe that's too reductive, but that's how I feel about the Knicks. So maybe they try to trade him and do something funky. The Kings panic trade is always a way out of these situations. And then the Kings would have Fox, Randall, and Sabonis and have the most fun lefty team ever assembled. But I just don't know what the Knicks do at this stage unless they can find a way to kind of change the hierarchical structure of their current core.
All right, let's go over to the Atlanta Hawks. And my question is about Trae Young. Has anybody's star taken a bigger hit than Trae Young this season? Because Trae is still putting up big numbers. He's 28 points a game, 9.5 assists. He's still putting up really, really good numbers.
Insane numbers.
I mean, really like historically good numbers. But not a peep about him on the All-NBA team. Like afterthought on the All-Star team. He's nowhere in like the MVP votes. No one's going to vote for him in MVP. And I think it's because Atlanta, after their shocking, surprising conference finals run last year, they came into the season like, the regular season is kind of boring to us. Like they literally said they were bored by the regular season. And now they're being, it's coming back to bite them in the ass. And it feels like Trae Young is taking all the hits here because I haven't heard any of the national media praise that we heard last year for Trae Young. Like it's all kind of gone away.
I'll give you a little Trae Young praise, an extreme hot take, and then I'll talk about the Hawks like a normal person. Trae Young has been amazing this year. The Hawks defense is 27th. That's why they're 500. Like that's the story of their season. So here's my Trae Young hot take. I think Trae Young's been better than John Morant this year. And I know. Trae Young has been ridiculous this year. I would put Trae Young in an All-NBA team if I could do it. And I hope I get dunked on for that. But Trae has been insane. Also, his defense is not very good. And that's a big part of the reason why the Hawks defense is so bad.
Yes.
Everyone on their team has been on defense here, including a guy. Okay, Clint Capella has not been awful on defense, but he even hasn't been as good as last year, which is a big part of why they were so good on that end. And they lost a little bit of sting from Bogdanovich, who was better last year on offense. Like they're just worse, and it's so jarring to see Nate McMillan's team be bad at defense. I know it's probably a big focus for them in practice all the time since I covered him so much. So if they can't get better on defense, he'll never get the attention because they're a 500 team fighting to make the play-in. But it hasn't been Trae Young's fault. I mean, he's been one of the best offensive players in the league this year and having one of the best offensive seasons like ever with his efficiency levels.
Well,
just skate right past that take. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
No. We'll touch on it. We'll touch on it. If he's that bad defensively, then what? Like the retort would be, well, what good is being that good that offensively if you're that bad defensively?
Sure.
And like if you're targeting Trae Young, if you put him out there and he is just an absolute liability, then okay, he's scoring to try to make up for that liability. Now it's possible because I covered the Isaiah Thomas years in Boston, and they were really good, and they had a really good defense with Isaiah Thomas on the floor, but you have to have that buy-in from everybody else. So Trae, as I kind of like argue with myself, sorry, Tony.
That's okay.
Trae is a complete liability defensively, but if you have the right defense and the right kind of types of defenders behind him, you can cover for it. It's just a matter of the other guys doing it, and the other guys aren't doing it. And really, to me, this puts the ball in Travis Schlenk's court in a big way. And he admitted at the beginning of the season, we tried to run it back, and it was probably not a good idea, in retrospect. Now he has to take the players that he paid and try to trade them with lower value to get the better mix. So you've got talent. I look at this Hawks team and I see talent, but it doesn't fit the right way. And now you have to figure out,
I agree,
which pieces do you keep and which pieces do you trade? Is Kevin Huerter, for example, a guy that fits better in Atlanta, or does he fit better giving you something else? Or the same thing with, pick any one of these other guys that's potentially tradable. That's the challenge for Atlanta. And this is why it's a bit of an unfair conversation to wrap up the Trae Young conversation, because he's obviously tremendous offensively, but until the rest of the team picks it up defensively, then his defense is going to be such a spotlight, because he's going to get picked on so much that people are going to be like, you can't count. He can't be these other guys, because look at him. Poor little Trae.
Yeah, his defense sucks, and that is the big knockout. I have no argument against his defense sucks. Like, of every top 25 point in the league, Trae Young is the worst defender. And it's not like he's the worst defender, but he's close to the second worst guy. Like, he's the worst defender by quite a bit.
Yeah.
That group. So, yeah, it's a big knock. But that's how high I am on his offense. And I think that, if it's Collins or Bogdanovich or Huerter or whoever, getting one offensive for defensive swap for them in kind of their backcourt rotation would make them a way better team next year.
Let's wrap up this segment real quick here with the Golden State Warriors losing to the Orlando Magic 94-90. What? Yeah, they had an 11-point fourth quarter lead. That went away in a hurry. Warriors without Steph Curry, obviously, they're hoping that he comes back for the playoffs. Now 2-6, a real bad foul late in the game from Klay Thompson, and just mistakes, turnovers, missed shots. Orlando playing hard. Look, you can't sleep against Orlando. They're not a good team record wise, but they're not going to quit. So Warriors now 6-12 in their last 18. That's not good for a team that had kind of high aspirations at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, it's actually worse than you just said, because they're actually at 14 in the fourth quarter. 14.
Oh, they were 14.
Yeah, at the beginning of the quarter, it was 79-65. According to my notes, I could be an idiot. I often am actually an idiot. Mo Bamba, of all people, huge three in this game in the corner.
That's right.
To give the Magic the lead back with under a minute to go. You never expect Mo Bamba to kill in the corner. Neither did the Warriors. They left him wide open. He drilled it. Jordan Poole misses a shot. Klay Thompson can't get one to go. So they had they got it within two again late, but they couldn't get it done. And yeah, the Warriors, obviously, we all know the reason. Injuries have completely sputtered their season. That one game where we had Steph, Klay, and Draymond all playing at the same time was cool when it happened, but it only happened once. So I don't know what to make of them right now. I know their record is pretty bad over their last lot of time now, and they just lost to the Magic on the road, and it's easily their easiest game of their ongoing road trip. So some signs of concern for the Warriors. I mean, Jordan Poole played well. They will hope that can continue on this road trip, but they have been very much struggling the last couple of even months, really.
Yeah, there's this opportunity here. If they stay in the third seed, you can have a little bit better path. If you fall to fourth, you're going to end up. Well, first of all, if you fall to fourth, the way things are right now, you end up with the Dallas Mavericks, who are no joke. And then you're next. If you get out of that, you got to play the Phoenix Suns in the second round, and that's not going to be fun.
Yeah, I get how the first round matchup matters in the West, all these teams, but my goal in the West is avoid the Suns for as long as possible.
Right, and hope that. I mean, I don't want to root for injuries, but you just got to hope that Chris Paul suffers one of those little nagging things that always seem to afflict Chris Paul, and you just got to wait to see if you can kind of get lucky. Now, hopefully, just to button that up, he's dealing with the injury now, and hopefully that's giving him enough rest to kind of get through the playoffs healthy. So We don't want to root for that, but we know his history in Golden State, or anybody in that situation would be like, well, let's see if we can kind of get lucky here. All right, that's the 4 games in the NBA. Up next, the real top story, the real big thing, the real Jonah Hill screaming GIF moment in the NBA. It's Zion Williamson posting a 2-second Instagram story of him dunking, and there is so much to talk about. Going to talk about that next. First, let me tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is a great tasting protein bar, which I love for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's just delicious. It's covered in chocolate, and whatever type of flavor you like. If you're a minty type of person, you like fruit stuff, you like coconut, they have all sorts of flavors that really are up your alley. And just as a snack, it's great. And it's better than a candy bar, because a candy bar is like 240 calories. And most of these Built Bars are at least half that, and maybe more. 30 grams of sugar in a candy bar, 4 in a Built Bar. Dozens of net carbs in a candy bar, 4 in a Built Bar. And it's a protein bar, so you get like 17 grams of protein. So if you're going to go to the gym, you're going to work out, grab a Built Bar. You can eat it at the end of your workout. Get yourself the protein without blowing out all of the work that you did with a high-calorie snack. If you want it as a meal replacement, if you want it just as a snack in the middle of the day, that it's not going to make you feel guilty, it's great. The best part about all of this is you have a promo code here, LOCKED15, that's going to get you 15% off at Built.com. But you get it every single time you use it. So go check out Built.com. Look at, cruise around, pick a thing that you like, get a mixed box, sample a few. Then when you decide, oh, I like this and that, go stock up. You can use that promo code again as often as you want. It's LOCKED15. It gets you 15% off every single time at Built.com. Okay, we were watching basketball, and then all of a sudden Zion Williamson pulls out his Instagram, and this is almost like Tom Brady coming out of retirement during Kevin Garnett's jersey retirement ceremony in Boston. Here comes Zion being like, nope, we're not watching basketball tonight. We're watching me dunk. And I'm watching this as I talk. If you haven't seen it, he tosses it up off the backboard, jumps, puts it between his legs, and flushes it lefty. And, nice, like, oh my God, look at him jump. Look at how high he's getting. The foot looks great. Tony, we're going to play real or fake, our regular Wednesday real or fake game. Real or fake, this video of Zion Williamson dunking, it means something significant.
I'll go with fake. I'll think fake. Ironic timing, because Shams Charania in The Athletic reports the same day, or was it yesterday, on his Inside Pass, the Pelicans do not expect Zion to return this season. Shams has pretty good credibility, obviously, on that. Now, obviously, Zion would know better than anyone else if he could return this year, and that video looks pretty promising. Like you mentioned, head's pretty close to the rim on the leap. He did a between the legs dunk after throwing it off the backboard. Looks pretty bouncy. Obviously, he wouldn't return to New Orleans and do basketball activity stuff if he wasn't closer to returning than he was earlier this season. So I'm not one to rule it out and say, no, he's not playing this year or anything like that. But in terms of real or fake, I mean, I would lean towards fake. There's not much time left in the season, but that why would you post that if obviously dudes post their dunks all the time, but in the practice facility, getting up, looking healthy, I mean, that it probably means something, I would say, but I don't know if it means anything enough for me to say real.
So my question here, and yeah, you're right. It's one thing to post a dunk, but it's another thing to be in shape. Watch this, and he's shirtless, so like he feels comfortable out there without the shirt. He looks to be in okay shape. Like it's not like it's nothing egregious. Which has been the question with Zion. I think he looks good, but is he in just dunking shape, or is he in real basketball shape? And why does he post this is the question. The Pelicans are 2 games ahead of San Antonio in the fight for the last play-in. and they would be facing the Lakers if it went today, and it's probably going to be the Lakers. They are 4 games behind the Clippers. Seems like the Clippers are going to be the 8th seed. So it's probably going to be Lakers and Pelicans. There is time for him to come back. And if he's ready to play, if he's healthy, then why not play? I'm leaning fake, but I can't dismiss real. I can't just say it's not real, because why post this video?
Right.
If you're not like, look, guys do post their videos all the time, for sure. And he might just be like, hey, everybody, look at me. I'm coming. I'm making progress. But the timing of it is just like, wait a minute. Are you trying to tell us something? So my brain is telling me it's fake, but there's a piece of me that's like, but wait a minute, there might be something real to this.
Well, let me give you my final two bullet points in the fake category.
Okay.
Number one, every single update in the Zion situation has not made sense, right? Like in media day, Zion's like, I'm gonna be ready by opening night. Yikes. That didn't happen, obviously. A lot of good reporting from Jake Madison, who you normally hear today, about this situation and how Zion has not played this year and all the wrinkles that have gone on and led to him not playing. Not a good situation. I would not expect that all of a sudden they're like, great, yeah, it's Rosie. Come to our practice facility and get your IG popping. So I'm not thinking that's the situation, but it is possible. And two, on fake, we talked about this before recording. If you really watch the video, the paint on the court is not real NBA hardwood. You can see compression when his feet go into the padding and when he lands. And I know Zion's a big dude, and he could maybe put an impression on an NBA floor, but it's not wood he's jumping off of, very clearly in the video. It's something softer because he's a foot injury. And if he's not ready to dunk on real hardwood, maybe he is. It's just a video. I can't read into it too much. Then he's not ready for a game. I think that's pretty simple.
So now we're going into full Zapruder film.
we're getting into it. Let's go.
I'm really
There's a sniper in the grassy knoll behind him on the bleachers too.
Yeah. So here's why. So this is just theoretically a pull your phone out, take a video, and post the video. Except on the bottom, the very, very bottom, there's a red strip. And what's that red strip covering up?
Ooh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. What's that red strip covering up? What am I not seeing? Because you know what else I'm not seeing? I'm not seeing the lane. I'm not seeing like this is an interesting scenario here because yeah, what's he doing? When you see him take a step, right? The first step, left foot, free throw line. There's something underneath his foot that's like, okay, this isn't just a regular floor. The next step, right foot. Very clearly, that right left, there's a very clear indentation and spring.
Squish, for a scientific word. There's a squish.
There's a squish, but then also I feel like that springs him up a little bit. And then when he lands on that right foot first, significant indentation, and then left foot, significant indentation. That is not a regular wood floor. He is not so heavy that he's going to make that kind of impression on a regular wood floor. So what's he jumping off of? So this bit makes me go, yeah, okay, this is fake. And it's not a fake video, but there's something more than him jumping off a regular floor here. There's something off about this video.
There is. Are
you watching it?
Yeah. Sorry, that's why I keep being all spacey.
You see that red strip on the bottom?
I do. I see the red strip now. Shout out to everybody who posted it. The many people who posted it. The red strip is confusing. I agree. I think it's all just probably foot safety stuff, which is smart. But if you're putting foot safety stuff on your practice floor for this guy to practice, probably means he's not ready. Also, though, the trouble I have is the paint on the basket behind him in the video has the same color paint. So I wanted to run over there and run on that too. Is that squishy also? Then I'd get a little more feel for what we're dealing with in this lane.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. There's certainly something going on.
Can I tell you my last dumb thing to overthink this?
Totally.
There are a lot of light reflections in the paint that are not present literally anywhere else on the court, which makes me think it's a different material than the rest of the court, like substantially different material.
Oh,
More reflective of the ceiling lights.
yes.
And if you are still listening to this, you are a great podcast listener because we are getting nitty gritty on a video you cannot see.
Well, yes, that's true. That's true. And unfortunately,
Please watch it.
We don't have the rights to it, but we're talking about it enough where people can be like, I got to search this out.
That's
and
right.
You got to tell
right.
us out. You know, it's John_Corrales on Twitter, at TEastNBA on Twitter. Let us know, because you're right. Now, it seems like the lights are following the correct pattern for the ceiling. So that there's something on the floor. There's just absolutely something on the floor.
Yep.
No offense. This would have been a great time to ask Jake Madison about what was going on in that practice floor. I got to text him tomorrow and figure out like what's going on.
He's got to show up already. Locked on Pelicans. That's your way to go.
That's it. You got to go to Locked On. Oh, did he actually do a show?
He did. He did.
The dunk?
He did.
He's a pro.
His power came on post weather, which again, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, hope everybody in New Orleans is doing okay who's able to tune in today. But yeah, power's back on, and there's a dunk show up for your second listen. Everybody, Locked On Pelicans.
Perfect. What a perfect way to end the show. You're a pro. He's a pro. I'm just here for the eye candy. So thank you, Tony East, for from Locked On Pacers, our sixth man of the year for sure. But the problem is, have you started too many games to get the sixth man of the year award?
I'm getting close to that number.
Close, right?
I'm about to ruin the trophy Tyreek Evans style, like when he was in Memphis. I got to get back on the bench.
Thanks, everybody, for making this show your first listen every day. Follow the show everywhere you get your podcasts. If you're new, check it out. Subscribe. If you're on YouTube, check it out. Subscribe. Hit that like button. And if you're a regular listener, subscriber, you want to help us out, make sure you spread the word. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.